working to support the best interest of children and creating national and community systems that will enable that best interest determination to take place without a doubt every single time. And what I've learned is that we need to have policies in place that are implemented through standards, through operating procedures, through guidelines. We need to have bodies that are able to monitor, to accredit, to regulate, to oversee, and those need to be free of interest. I've learned that building the capacity of children, parents, social workers is absolutely critical in ensuring the best interest of the child. I've learned that money matters. Not only the availability of funding, but how that funding is being invested. And what I've learned is that monitoring and evaluation is absolutely critical, not for the numbers, but for the qualitative value that tells us every single time if we are indeed serving the best interest of the child, if whatever we are putting in place has the child participation, full contribution, as well as it delivers the right results. I do not believe in silver bullets. I do not believe that deinstitutionalization is the process of moving kids out of institutions. That's not deinstitutionalization. Deinstitutionalization is a very complex process which entails the transition from one mindset of using institutions as a sort of a fail-back warehousing facility to developing a system that first and foremost prevents children from being unnecessarily separated from their parents. And then the smallest part of that system is what we call alternative care, quality alternative care, which needs to be like a rainbow. It's a diversity of services that provide to the needs of that child at that particular moment in time. And you know the CRC, which recognizes that their family is the best environment for children to grow and for their full and harmonious development. Children need the love, the safety, and the security of a family. So these are the fundamentals on which we're going to build this dialogue today. Children first. This is not done for children, but with children. This is not just a one-way process. And you know, deinstitutionalization should always be placed within the bigger scheme of strengthening systems for children. It's a great entry point, but it's not all. We need to look at the justice system. We need to look at all sorts of issues that children are facing. And our mind needs to be like Hippocrates thinking many, many moons ago, prevention is what works best. But for us to be able to do it, we really need to understand how we can identify, how can we support families, how can we be timely and effective in that particular intervention. So with this in mind, we have a really interesting and unfortunately short session because we can talk about this for a long time. But now we know each other, and maybe we can do a little group in which we can continue the conversation, we can connect or with emails and so on and so forth. So what we have today is 4 very interesting, insightful, short presentations coming from the perspectives of the professionals and organizations that they represent. And then what we want is to hear from you. What are the burning questions? What are your reflections? What are the things that you would like to learn more from us? And I know this is a subject that will take us on long, long discussions. So I would like us to prioritize as much as we can what are those burning issues and to allow as many questions as possible so we can try and answer or find together guidance for those questions.
We have been trying to do and would like to have feedback on how we can streamline the processes of deinstitutionalization and promotion of family-based care. So One aspect of it is like when what Delia mentioned, that prevention is the most important aspect. So when we are working with the communities, we come across children who are at risk of being separated from their family. So we at the first level we work with such children, and we use structures which are defined within the government system, like the integrated child protection scheme talks about the village level or the ward level child protection committees. So using these platforms, how we can keep a track of such children, especially children who live in slums or in red light areas or tribal areas which are untouched by any government scheme. And we need to have a regular interface with the parents and guardians of such children. And we need to also have an interface with the child to understand what the child wants, and if required, production of the child before the child welfare committee. And then exploring several options, which are very few, but mapping those options and making them available to the child and the family, like the residential school option, or if the situation within the family is not good, if we can place that child in a kid's home where he or she feels safer, or offering or linking to any appropriate scheme or skill building courses. Then reaching out to vulnerable children who are already now out of home, out of the safety net, or who are living within an institution. So here one aspect is out of home children who are found in the railway platforms. We have also come across such cases where children just land up on railway stations because they come to use the free Wi-Fi every day, and then suddenly one day if there is a fight in the family or somebody beats them up, they have this resolution that we will stay at this railway platform because we are here all day anyways, and from there they fall out of the safety net. So like we run the railway child line also, and we use the child help desk to understand how many such children are there in that pocket, and how they can be intervened with, and how early family reunification can be done. The causes of falling out of the family safety net are determined, and they are produced before the child welfare committee. And in case the situation in the family is not good, they are kept for some time in drop-in centers, which is a temporary arrangement, and then further counseling, constant home visits are done. But I would also highlight some of the challenges that we come across when we go through such processes, because we have a very small basket of options that we can offer to such children. So this is one way, and the other way, like we run shelter homes also, and there we have started this process of ensuring early family reunification. And even if a child comes to the CCI, the shelter home, we try to ensure early family reunification, and we don't want the child to be there for a long time. So we have that kind of networks with the child welfare committee, the police, and once the child is handed over to the family, there are follow-up visits every month to understand the progress of the child, and whether the child wants to continue in such an arrangement, or what is the basket of services that we can offer to the family. There is another innovation that we have done in Jharkhand, where we work with tribal communities, and these are community-owned creches. We call them community-owned creches because the community provides space for running these creches, and the basic infrastructure is also provided by them. And it is basically for working parents who go out of the village, they work as daily wage laborers, and they come back in the evening. So for that period of time, the children are uncared of, the small children. So, and they are, we find many of such children malnourished, severely malnourished. So, they are kept in these creches, and there are 2 volunteers from each village who are nominated by the community, who are also trained to look after these children. And they also provide them joyful learning, and they get a hygienic environment, like when they sleep they are provided with bed nets. And this is one arrangement that we have studied and we have understood that it helps to improve the nutritional status of the children. And the third strategy that we have used across all our interventions, because the primary objective is to create child-friendly communities. So here we focus on working at the community level to build preventive models. And the first aspect is to mobilize the adolescents, because this is the group that we have found is mostly at risk, and especially in states like Jharkhand and West Bengal, where trafficking is a big issue, and this is the age group we want to track and understand how they can be empowered and how they can influence their fears into not going into unsafe migration and into continuing their education. So mobilizing the adolescents, and again using the structures that are defined within the government system, within ICPS, activating them and linking the village level tracking mechanisms to the block, to the district level, so that the community knows what its entitlements are and where it can raise its issues, and who can provide them the right direction to access the entitlements and schemes that are meant for them. And then when we do these arrangements, we also get these demands from the community that can you do some structured awareness exercises, some structured meetings for us, and they like to participate in street plays and audio-visual shows, and so such things are used. And we have also piloted the early childhood continuum of care education, where we intervene at the Anganwadi center level, and there we try to ensure that preschool is offered in a structured manner. And we have seen that such children who undergo good preschooling, they don't drop out when they go to formal school. They usually don't drop out. And absenteeism in the Anganwadi center is also reduced. So it's all very complicated, and every child has a different issue. And we try to track each child and do case management at the local level through the village level child protection committee, and we try to offer local solutions. And if that is not possible, they are linked up to the block and to the district. And after all these processes, we felt that even if we keep tracking the children, even if we do case management and do some local level solutions, we are not reaching up to the end point, because the family is not strengthened. Because the issues within the family, you can't resolve them just by linking them to some government schemes or linking the community to their entitlements. This is also an issue of behavior change, and this needs to be approached in a structured manner. And for this we have partnered with Open Homes for Children, and they would be capacitating CINI to undertake active family support at the community level. And this is a structured process, and like Telia was talking about, using of structured monitoring and evaluation mechanisms, tools and BCC. So that we will be starting to roll out. And for that we have started with an assessment of the homes in Jharkhand, some of the homes in Jharkhand. And we have come to understand that children have been living in these CCIs for a long time. So around 263 children were covered. And though they are offered the basic services, like they get education and basic medical care and all, but they also don't know what their future is. And surprisingly, most of the children, they have either one parent living or both parents living, but still either they don't want to go back home or nobody wants them back. So these are the lines on which we are planning the further intervention. And though the CCIs are doing their best in providing services to the children, they are also unaware of the alternative forms of care. They are also unaware of how they can initiate early family reunification, and how foster care, which is unheard of in a place like Jharkhand, how such things can be brought on the ground. And they are also very open to get capacitated on how they can deal with such situations, because they, after a point of time, they also can't keep on getting children one after the other, and those children have nowhere to go, and they also don't have aftercare facilities to offer. So, keeping such scenarios in mind, we are going to partner with these shelter homes to capacitate them on how they can work towards deinstitutionalization. So this is the way forward, which would mainly focus on system strengthening and capacity building, and to understand how such best practices are being followed across the globe and in India, and how we can make the most out of it in a place which is remote and where people are totally unconnected with the government services. So that's it from my end. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanvi. I would like just to highlight a couple of points because combination. So remember, we speak about DI, so Tanvi started with prevention. Prevention is the essential step to helping stop the flow of children towards the childcare homes. What is prevention? First and foremost is pulling together the support that already exists, either through schemes or grants or organizations like ours working in communities but not necessarily working together. Third, what is prevention? Helping families to access services. So we can't allow children to be placed in institutions just because they have or need access to preschool or school education. That's a responsibility that the government and the local community needs to take. Because of malnutrition, to lose significant milestones in their development with lifelong consequences. So there are groups within the groups that you need to prioritize. Local community involvement, engagement through various ways, role play, discussions, debates. You don't need to reinvent the wheel if they are already there at the community level. And one final point, if you want to know why children separate from their families, you can start by assessing the circumstances of separation for children in the homes. Not only the current circumstances, but what has happened. And many times we do not have the information on the file, because it's only written abandoned, left, found at the train station. But that doesn't tell us what's the reason. It only tells us the symptom, the child was separated. But we need to understand what actually happened in the family that led to that child either being sent or being taken away or the child running away. If we want to help restore the family strength. Cool. Moving forward. Just make note.
Deinstitutionalization of childcare in Sri Lanka, and I'll be focusing on disabilities, LGBTQ issues, and child participation. There are, according to census or population and housing 2012, there are 8.7% persons with disabilities out of the population of 85 and above in Sri Lanka. And also we have 440 childcare institutions with 40,000 plus children in. And if you see this diagram, you may see that there is 15.3% children out of whose both parents are alive are sent to institutions due to disabilities and illnesses. And out of 414 childcare institutions, we have 33% of CCIs where disabled children are kept. And we have identified gaps and challenges like these: lack of sufficient facilities and assistance devices, lack of knowledge, capacity, and the technical things that parents should have with taking care of their disabled children, and economic difficulties, social beliefs and myths, lack of data and information, and limited accessibility to services. If you see, 54% of children, special needs children who are in institutions have both parents, and we see this as a potential because if we provide necessary education, rehabilitation support, and family support to those parents, most of them, at least half of them, those children would have been kept in homes under their parents' care. So, with those gaps, Sri Lankan government and also civil societies have taken many initiatives, and these are some of the policy initiatives that have been taken. There is a special act for protection of rights of the persons with disabilities, and under this act we have established a special secretariat for persons with disabilities, and it is mandated to promotion, advancement and protection of the rights of persons with disabilities. And here is another one, Specially Disabled Persons Accessibility Regulation Act. It's regulated the buildings and the access parts of the institutions that provides public services. And also there are some inclusive policies like guidelines and standards for childcare institutions and minimum standards and guidelines for water sanitation and hygiene and preschools and national health policies. And there are some interventions like community-based rehabilitation programs. It is done by the Department of Social Services, and it has a wide range of services. Under that program, they establish self-help groups within the communities, and they train volunteers, and they provide, they have provisions for access facilities and training and capacity building, and they also have services to counseling to disabled children and also their parents as well. And also there are a variety of aid programs, medical, housing, self-employment, disability aid equipment and so on. And also the education of disabled children is ensured from preschool to the university level in Sri Lanka under special schools and special units in mainstream schools and under inclusive education. And also vocational training and rehabilitation centers is a very important one. This stays only the national social service department's intervention, but apart from these, a number of NGOs and civil society organizations are working on providing vocational training, life skills and rehabilitation facilities. Lesbians, gays, bisexual, transgender and queer communities. It is a very controversial matter in Sri Lanka because none of these are legal in Sri Lanka. So it is not in the child rights discourse in the country, and no many researchers are available in the automation field, and also those communities are facing many difficulties and discriminations due to the social, cultural and religious beliefs and the categorization of diverse sexualities. Despite of all those matters, we have some progressive developments too. Government of Sri Lanka, the Ministry of Health has issued a special circular for recognition, for issuing of gender recognition certificate for transgender persons, so that they can get amended their birth certificates accordingly. And also there are two key developments in legal system. Our AGS department has declared that they are in the process of considering rights of those communities' rights, inclusion of those communities' rights into the present constitution with reforms and the reforms of the penal code also. And also there are some NGOs who are promoting promoting rights of the LGBT communities in the country. It is well accepted that children should be heard when taking decisions that are affected to them. But in Sri Lankan context, we see there are many gaps and challenges. Most of the adults think that they are the persons who should take decisions on behalf of their children, and children should act accordingly. And also there are many communities and religious groups, they don't let their children to mix with others, and also they don't let them to participate in child club activities. And also the over-identification of child participation with children club. When we ask somebody what is child participation, they definitely tell it is children clubs, like that. And also focus on type of activities carried out in the club. Those are not focused meaningful child participation, they are only extracurricular activities most of the time. And lack of participation of children in activities. According to a survey we done last year, about 67% children do not participate in children club activities due to they are having tuition classes. And there are some potentials we see regarding the child participation. We have a strengthened structure of children clubs and councils in Sri Lanka, which are run by the national, state and civil societies also. Those are run through the village level to the national level, and also in the state, in the department's child clubs and councils constitution, we have included the participation of institutionalized children and disabled children also. And also there are spaces for children to participate in family group conferences and village child rights monitoring committees and placement committees, and also children are consulted in many policy preparing processes. And let's talk about the overall gaps and challenges for inclusion and potentials for DEI and promising practices in Sri Lanka. Lack of information, as we all know, lack of information gathering systems, and resistance to change, and lack of competencies, lack of coordination. Those are the gaps and challenges as we see. And according to the UN guidelines, there are 3 levels of prevention, and under that levels we have categorized our services of prevention of institutionalization. Primary level is general or universal level. There are many services provided in Sri Lanka: education, free education, health, security, and so on. But there are instances that the accessibility is limited. And in secondary, we have case management processes. We have issued national guidelines on case management. And care plans, family group conferencing, and clinical case management. And also there are some promising practices done by the civil society organizations, kinship care, run by the SERI and Sarvodaya community-based DI project, SOS child villages, and drop-in centers for street children. In tertiary and reintegration, we have some programs run by the state departments, placement committee meetings, but there are some gaps because in the law there is no provision for the say about the frequency of having placement committees. So it's not regularly done by the departments. And also some provinces are carrying out special programs like Back to Home project done by the Sabaragama province. It's It's a project target the children who are in institutionalized due to they have no place to stay. So that promise is with the collaboration of private organizations, they are and private and state organizations, they are in the process of building homes, houses for those children. And also CBR project, as I mentioned earlier, and village child right monitoring committees and child protection committees and SOS children villages. And also there are policy and commitments of the governments like National Alternative Care Policy, care plans for vulnerable children, and national guidelines of case management and the family policy. The local process initiative is a long-term bottoms-up initiative has initiated by the several civil society organizations with the partnership of state organizations, and it collaborates all the stakeholders who are working with the grassroots level directly with the children. And under this program, the officers and the stakeholders capacities are developed, and the grassroots level issues are taken to the policy level, to the parliament through this process. And also we can see this as somewhat good practice that avoid those gaps and challenges we taken seriously. So ladies and gentlemen, that's it, my presentation. Thank you very much.
I would like to highlight a couple of
colleagues from across the Asian and different countries, and particularly our chair, Dr. Delia Park. And me, Waindawali, I'm representing from Apology of Bangladesh, but my perception was completely different. I thought that the deinstitutionalization, this is a paradigm shift of the jargons and the terminology. So I never been going through this subject during my 23 years work, but I've been working and serving the children in my organization. So I took it intentionally so that I can go through some academic documents and I can learn many things so that what can be possible utilization in the country or applicable in the country context. That was my intention. So very specifically, I was truly moved on the first session when Dr. Nilimaji was presenting about the deinstitutionalization issue. Many of the issues is being covered. So that's why I'm a bit, step back, that I don't want to teach you again that what is the concept, what is the definition. So you see the definition is here. It's sort of like reform or modification of the institution. It's a disguise of the institution. So you can go through in many ways. I can give you the presentation, but I would like to talk more about the Bangladesh issue. So that's why I'm jumping few of the my slides. The process is telling about that long-term institutional support should be stopped. So the short-term support would be ensured by the third party, and it has to be either by the community or by the family. The family definition, to me, if it is not a viable family, then that cannot be acceptable, neither to us, nor to you all, or not to the children. That is for sure. And service has to be from all the community and local government and the government, whatever the services are available in the country, that has to be availed by each and every child. That should be one of the issue. And I think that sociological issue, it is sort of like the way we are socialized. We think a school is a school. So now there are different kind of school, like enjoy school, doing and learning school, work and learning school, drawing and learning school. So there are many schools and kindergarten schools, English medium schools, Bengali medium schools, and religious schools. The same way I say that the ideology we have and the sociological mindset we have, that is, it is for the children. We have to come up with the mindset that children are unattended, unrepresented. They have to be taken care by a party which is community based or family based. The children are on the streets or on the orphan or on the homelessness they are suffering from. So the previous slide, if I go back, especially we are suffering from the difficulties and the challenges mostly with the children with the disability and the children who are abused, sexually abused, physically abused, or different type of violation against the children. So they have a very special kind of need. So what we go for these children, the children and the caregivers need to be identified, especially when access of service and the programs may not be reached to them. Because we have to reach area. There are many areas, there is no support, no institution. Children are there with their mothers or they are pushed to for the job. So when the children will be in the informal care, my issue is mainly the rights they have that has to be practiced. Number one, the right to their birth registration, right to their inheritance, access to the services, and legal parental permission and guardians, and protection from all premature adult roles. There have been, I think all the speakers said about the drop-in centers, shelter home, daycare centers. In the South Asian region, these are the practices we are doing. Foster care, kinship, and collective family, youth clubs. All these are the very common, and in Bangladesh it is also very common across the country. So I'll talk 2 or 3 minutes in my last part about the specific 2-3 issues that is not in the slide. So we are very much about the child participation issue. Whenever the children comes, so each children need assessment issues is there, fact sheet is there, case management is there. There is a management committee called Joint Management Committee. So each program is been running with the direct participation of the children. There are 2 staff and 7 children are elected, rotationally, and it is gender balance. So children are decision making process and planning process from budget to implementation in each stage is there. So there are many joint and peer support, need assessment as I said, and we do a sort of like therapy that children do, they close their eyes and they think about their life and their sufferings, and they have to identify their destination. So what is their ultimate dreams? So then they wake up and say, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a pilot, I want to be a pilot who will bombard into the country. So many of the times you said, why you are saying this? They said, no, my father died, my mom died because of the army fire, or during the any flight situation, or they are tortured by the police. So then the children are given the idea that you draw a picture and talk about what you can do, what the institution can do, what government can do, and how you want to continue to materialize your dream. So this is the way we motivate the children, and children draw the picture, okay, if I want to be the doctor, then I have to be a very good student and continue my education. And I need to be motivated. No alcohol, no drugs, no early marriage, no antisocial activities involvement. So it is a sort of like automatic therapy and motivational issues. So this is very, very important in our organization. There are about more than 500 youths are working with the organization as a staff, and they are motivated. So So the findings are there are many misconceptions in Bangladesh. Normally we say there is a supermarket of NGOs. There are many NGOs, many approaches. And the community contribution or local contribution, corporate social responsibility is very much less, only because they said if people are having money from foreign country, so why we should be giving money to you? It's rather giving money to the religious institution or to the mosque. You know, these are the prominent places. So that's why the misconceptions are there, but still we are trying to have a collaborative approach and coordination with all the links to the ministry and the government, and so that the work is being, you know, processed very nicely and progress very much in your line. So all participants and the speakers in the first session also talk about the family strengthening. I will talk the same way, but I have got a different issue in Bangladesh. I am sure most of you have the information. Microcredit is a very successful program in the country. So when we are going to the family, particularly we see there is a link between the other NGO who are giving the microfinance, and when we are going, then there is a, you know, a big mix of a good thing. They are giving fish, and there are way we are teaching them how to take care of their children, parenting, and there should be like a conditional cash transfer. Children should be in their school, they should not be in the most other form of child labor, or they should not be trafficked or sell out. So these are the issues we normally talk to the families. Last year we transferred cash to 1,900 families, and 3 cases are failure case, but rest of the cases are successful. So I think this part is also like access of the low resources. We have budget. In the national budget, we have got 14% of for the social safety net. But most of the ministry related to the child rights issues, they can go for the expenditure only 28%. And we never know where the rest of the amount of the money goes. So there is a limitations of the ministries. There is a limitations of the budget expenditure. There is a limitations of the transparency and the accountability. So that's why the social safety net money, there is a money. The money goes for the old people, orphan, children, and the beggars, newborn baby mothers. There are many people under this social safety net. Only a small amount of money goes to the child services for the children. So that is very important. So I'm sure that this part is covered already. So the recommendation I'm going to talk, that is my personal issue, that is I'm going to this one. That why we are thinking about deinstitutionalization. I have got institution, and I'm looking for what is deinstitutionalization. So parallelly, 2 approaches going nicely, and truly, very frankly, in 2013, we have got Children Act 2013. It's a new and amended, where the alternative care and protection is highly highlighted in the new law. So now all the organizations are very, like, shut up the whole country and they are looking for alternative care. So now my issue is, when we are having institutional care, then we are talking about community support. How can be the community support enhanced? Number 1, we have group homes for the children who are in the process of rehabilitation and employed, in the process of employment. So we have got 11 group home. They have group home mixed up with the other peers. It is now 55 group homes by the adolescents and young adult. And I feel this is the most sustainable way of reaching the children in the mainstreaming society with their dignity, identification, everything. Second one, we have got many learning centers and shelter homes. No funding, no DORAs finished. and that is completely supported by local people are giving rice, dal, fish, meat, everything. All the institutions giving the educational materials, and few high-ups people, they are giving the staff salary. So this is the way we are making professional panels, lawyers panel, doctors panel, teachers panel, advocates panel, so the children can get support. And on the other hand, we form the committee, action committee, advisory committee, monitoring committee by the with a very good combination of the housewives, youths, and the retired officers, government officer, police officer, many types of multi-layers of people are involved there. So what is their responsibility? So many of the times they are the monitoring body, they are coming and supervising our work. Then they are collaborating with other organizations, and if there are any cases happening, they are referring to the perfect institutions. So this is the way we are working, Operator like a intermediary organization linking with community, institution and government. Thank you very much.
I'd like to highlight a common definition of what we refer to as institutional care or orphanage. So then, when we know what we want to address, our strategies will be clear. Now, we need one at global level, but there is a solution. In each countries and each groups in which we operate, there is nothing stopping us from saying, okay, us as a group here, working on a national strategy, let's define for ourselves, within the framework of the guidelines, within the framework of the UNCRC, what do we mean by these provisions? Remember, as it was mentioned before, the CRC sits at the foundation of everything we do. The guidelines are recommendations, and they are meant to help us translate and implement the rights into practice. And that's where the buck stops. If we really manage to translate words into realities, it's what really will make a difference for children. I think I would also want to thank you for highlighting how important it is to work in a very individualized way, to look at each and every child from a very unique and personal perspective, to always look and reassess and reevaluate. You highlighted methods, good methods of participation, group work, drawing, picturing, imagination, all these things are very, very valuable. And I'm sure across this room we all have a wealth of experience of how to use them. I would also want to highlight, there are a couple of other forms, let's say, of residential care that are really, really useful in working with children and young people transitioning out of institutional care. And again, I use my definitions. Assisted living. Most of the young people who leave care, they don't know their families, or they might not have a connection with them. They have no money, they have no bank account, they have nothing to help them make that transition into independent life. A life-saving service is providing them with an opportunity to live in a safe environment, maybe with their peers, maybe with a little bit of support. And that does not need to start when they age out of system. It needs to be supported and managed accordingly, earlier, not at the last minute. There is assisted living for young people with disabilities, where you can actually bring in a carer, even if a member of the family, to live in with that person and to enable that individual to have a life as close as possible to the community life and with full respect to the lives. One final comment on the disability issue. There is a general comment on the UNCRPD, which actually says that for all people with disabilities, group homes are the equivalent of institutions. So there is a movement towards pushing away all forms of residential care, and it comes from very good intentions. Because what we see in the data from countries is that too many times children and people with disabilities will end up living in institutions. And And that's for no other reason, because those institutions are there and it's the easiest way. But ultimately, the costs affected to running those facilities are so much higher than actually supporting that person in the community, with the family, with a very personalized approach. And there is data across the world of how this works. Once more, we are not talking about a silver bullet. Just imagine this is a puzzle, this is a rainbow of options that we need to create and customize, so we are not matching a service with a child, but a child with a service. We put what that child needs in our decision making to understand what kind of support we can offer. If we only have institutions, that's the only. It's not the last resort, it's going to be the only resort. So that's the way we need to develop, in a progressive way, the range of services. We are running a bit late, and I do apologize.
Indian government, children and other NGOs, this is my personal learning. I acknowledge the support received from Interpostal Girls, Mentor, Dilma Mehta, and other for this. This is the core conceptual understanding on DI. Basically, it's a step-by-step process to release children from institutions to family care. I focus basically the step-by-step process. This is not a incident or event where in the fine morning you decide to send the children from institutions to family. It's basically a step-by-step process you have to follow. This way I'm not going to discuss. The strategy is basically when we work on this DI, strategy is always preventive and rehabilitative, because you also need to work on preventive strategies. It's not like always in and out. Basically, children also has to, you have to also decide in one point of time to stop everything. That's also we need to discuss. This is some of the learning based on my knowledge. This is operational readiness strategy. I call it operational readiness strategy for working in the DI. There is 3 levels. One is the children's level, another is at family level, and there is also another at the government level. If 3 levels are not prepared, then it is very difficult to work on the DI. Prepare children, it's basically readiness children. Children will be prepared and participate in the decision to back to the family. It's very important. Family is well prepared and willing to accept children and render all basic rights and services. That's also we need to work. And the most important is basically to prepare the government, because the government is prepared to implement the change or shift with strong willpower. What happens in our system normally, if any government officer comes, if he or she feels that okay, something is very good, he started implementing, but things are not institutionalized. When he or she is transferred, things are completely changed. So that's why we need a very strong working willpower of the government. This is the strategy basically to work on this DI. Strategy 1 is basically gatekeeping. I know everybody knows what is about gatekeeping, assessment and decision making process. This can happen at the board level. Even in the community level also, we can have the gatekeeping. Even if in the statutory bodies or organizational level also need the gatekeeping. There is also possibility in the community level also, people can decide, community can decide whether children needs to go to the institution or not. That's also possible. Family center is very important. Requires service that prevents separation of children. Poverty is also a factor. We cannot deny poverty is not a factor for institutionalization. Poverty is also a factor. So I think we need to also work on rendering basic services so that the family can support their children on education, health and safety and well-being of this. Continuum of care, there is also a big debate whether the continuum of care is also applicable for the DI or not, but I strongly believe continuum of care of framework is also applicable for the deinstitutionalization. Maybe we need to also see that whether the children belong to whether these children have their biological parents, then first you have to go to the biological parents, then the kinship. All the framework of continuum care is also applicable for the DI children. Child participation is very important. because taking opinion of children is a fundamental requirement. If the children are not prepared, if the children are not taken their confidence when you are taking a very big decision, then I think it's also going to create a lot of problem. This is something I learned very personally. When you work with this DI, partnering with childcare institutions is also very important, because staff of volunteers, as they are the essentials to the effective transition process. This engagement begins with very actively building the capacity to raise the awareness, because in the DI process, the organization providing institutional care also big threat. They feel losing their job. They are also scared whether one day organization will also close down. So this kind of feelings also exist. So to bring them, at least we also need to help them to understand what is deinstitutionalization, why family is important, what is the reunification process. All those things is also needed to build the capacity of the institutional care providers. Then only things will move. Partner with CCIs, maybe also we need to work on certain things like reform the care system. Many times people feel that what is going to happen if the deinstitutionalization process is going to be there, then what is going to happen? Whether one day organization will close down, whether we will lose our job, what is going to happen with these buildings and all those infrastructures were created in the country. So maybe we also need to see all those aspects. Maybe what do we want to reduce? Maybe in institutional care, whether we want to reduce our number of children. Maybe whether we want to reset. Maybe there are also a lot of things we can reshape in institutional care setup, like we can also reshape our accommodation arrangement, maybe we can reshape our protection arrangements, everything. There are also a lot of things we can reshape in the institutional care setup. What do we want to improve? There is also a lot of things we can improve in the institutional care setup, like we can improve our standard care practices, we can improve many things can be improved. So these are the care reforms is also essential when you are working on the deinstitutionalization practices. These are some of the recommendations. Maybe we can also like care reforms, close down or reduce the dormitory style of functioning, maybe limiting the regulation of the number of new child entering into the CCIs, maybe develop increased community outreach program. Maybe we can also help the institutional care providers to build the outreach program, because I have seen in India the organizations who is rendering the child care services, they don't know any other things. Their outreach program is completely closed. They are completely confined within the four wall of the institutional care. So maybe we can also help them to go to the community, even if we can also give them an option to okay, kinship care, they can also work out of other arrangements also there. Even if utilizing the institutional infrastructure and the workforce to promote family strengthening and community outreach program, maybe the institutional setup can also convert into the family support center. That's also possible, like other countries have also done this. Transition, reintegration, effective planning and ensure this safe transition is also important for this DI process. This is also another important thing in the Indian context, basically to develop the roadmap and the vision plan of the government. Because looking into the socio-cultural and long history of residential care strategies, the government has to take a serious reflection together with various stakeholders and prepare its own roadmap and vision plan. Because in our country, there is no any vision document, there is no any roadmap, or there is nothing else, any perspective plan, what to do, how to deal with this deinstitutionalization. Because many things are person-centric. If the government or one officer is interested, he or she does, but otherwise there is no institutional practice. So to avoid all those things, basically we need to also develop a very robust roadmap so that at least things will move, even if he or she is not there. In the end, there is my submission: if the DI or deinstitutionalization is not handled properly, it may create more harm to children. Even I have seen there are also very families are very broken families. Even if children are there in institutions, they are getting food, they are getting education. But if the families are not being prepared properly, if the families are not well capacitated, then I think deinstitutionalization is going to create more harm for the children. Thank you.
Very useful and very practical. Start with engagement. There will be resistance, and people know to understand why the institutionalization. And it's not about them, but it is for and with the children. Second, it's the assessment. understanding the real reasons, the context of separation, the drivers of children being either removed or being at risk in their families is absolutely critical. Third, it's all about designing your recipe. You remember you're baking a cake. Every single time, on the basis of your evidence, you can decide what services you need to develop, which ones you need to reshape, which ones you need to cut out, which ones you need to reduce, etc. And don't be afraid to innovate. You need to contextualize the words of the convention into the country that you operate. Fourth step, capacity development. You cannot run new and improved services if you do not have capacity to deliver that. It's both at institutional level as well as government level as well as NGO. People need to have a common denominator and a good quality in their approach. Before last, transition. It's all about supported transition. Children will not be successful, families will not be successful unless we prepare them for that step. And last but not least, we need to monitor and evaluate. So one, we know that what we are doing well or very well. That we are helping children to make progress and we are learning from the mistakes. Do not be afraid. Learning from mistakes and failures is probably the most meaningful learning. And with this, I would like to thank our panelists for their very insightful and useful presentation to the issue of deinstitutionalization. Let's give them a big round of applause.